I was a part of the neoliberal world, like neoliberal economy, how the neoliberalism actually benefited some people. Maybe I was like one of the few in the early 90s who got into the job straight after my MPhil classroom to a corporate, but with a maybe a striking salary that period of time. But the thing is that my growth or my journey is also explaining this country's neoliberal journey, because from where we started and where I am right now, because it's like a scopeless or like, I don't know, screwless kind of situation I am standing here, because I started with a lot of aspirations, but now I reached where I am heading for. I think I see a lot of what is happening around in me as well. So I thought when Siddhi called me, this is an opportunity for me to talk to the aspiring economists or aspiring scholars in this group to talk about it and to also share my understanding plus my questions and suspicions and all. Because when we talk about alternative development, what the kind of alternative development we are talking of? In which premises we are standing and talking it? So do we have a development agenda? Do we have a development idea? So whose idea is actually we are creating, we are proliferating, talking, researching all through as a development? Because I had heard once, maybe 2008, the study which I got the South Asia level Best Research Scholars Award from GDN, the World Bank Group. When I was writing that thing, my institute head, I was actually negotiating with him for something I had seen, because I used to travel 22 kilometers by road every day to go to my office. So sometimes I had to travel by, when I miss the public transport and I had to take auto and travel all these 22 kilometers. So then I engage with the auto driver, or what, to know that what he sees, because I'm a researcher, I'm an inquisitive person. So I need to see that what is he is talking. So then I found a lot of differences in the different auto drivers in Delhi, how they see the world. And then I could see that there are a lot of connection between the kind of sources they are coming to the Delhi city. So like from Bihar, people are coming, they see the world completely different from someone coming from UP. And someone coming from Haryana, we can't see much, but the thing is still their way of seeing things and the world is completely different. So I actually developed, I was working on a paper arguing that the people from the Bihar who is coming to Delhi, staying there for many years, their aspiration level is much higher and much more development oriented than anyone else. So then the government, Bihar government had to work more on that ground rather than just focusing on doing something bits and pieces here and there. The reason I argue that my institute, where I used to work that time, known as a Bihar Development Institute, because most of the work is actually based on Bihar, and it has a huge panel data on that Bihar's various socio-development aspects also. So then I was arguing, I developed a paper with the help of Professor J. Krishnamurthy, and I thought, yeah, this is a good paper. Then I submitted, I did for the peer review and everything. So then finally when I was submitting, because my the director told me that, look, I am from Bihar, I am a Bihari. So I know what the Biharis wants. So then he said, the Biharis, normally what you see, they want only kapada, makan, roti, makan and kapada. So I mean, I'm not like an emotional person basically, but that day in front of him, I cried. Because I lost all my hope, because someone who is sitting in the Bihar planning board is talking that, look, the people of Bihar needs only these three things. They're happy with that. So I lost my temperament also that moment. I said, if you are coming from Bihar and making this much of connections and this much of wall, then an ordinary Bihari who doesn't have anything is coming here, their aspiration is 100 times or maybe 10,000 times higher than yours. I lost my entire work, career, what is a coziness that moment in that organization, next to 4 years. I had to work in a very hostile environment because of this. This is what actually most of the policy makers are doing. They decide that people needs only basic things. And their neoliberalism, when we talk about it, it is actually based on that. It's a basic minimum requirement. In 1970s, when ILO put forward this basic minimum requirement as the base for providing the minimum things, that actually eventually taken us. Our entire right argument is coming from these basic minimum requirements. So the neoliberalism, the policy and political economic changes are taking place in 1970s. So ILO actually moved ahead. We consider that ILO is one of the most sensitive and responsive kind of UN agencies. But unfortunately, I would say that they had done the damage. They brought the things down. So neoliberalism is actually acclimating us with each and every of their, adverse effect. So we are not able to understand. That's what now Professor Kinyam mentioned, it's an age of revolution is over. I completely agree. Because we are acclimatized. Even if someone hit you, oh, I think, oh, he only hit me, he didn't kill me. So I can wait for a little more. That kind of situation, the market actually made us to believe and accept it. So then in this context, how we will think about an alternative development? So what could be the nature of that alternative development? Is it possible? This is what I always think about it. And here, when we look into the morality factor, there is so many other things are working. That is something the market is also talking about what? The simple economics student, undergraduate, or even plus two students say that a perfect market situation. When you talk about the perfect market situation, what is the information is there? Transparency is there? Tell me at least one market scenario where we knew what is happening there? Where we knew that it is transparent in its operations? We are signing a lot of things every day in the net. I agree. Sometimes I try to read. Then when I read half, I say, oh, I can't agree this because this is against me, my interest, the market talks about what private rights. My entire private right being, negated there and destroyed there. I am allowing them to be like, look, I am your boss. I am your slave. I will accept everything. That's the way I am doing that. Then we are talking about we are in a free market economy. That's one issue. On the side, we are talking about the minimum state and maximum governance. Even this year's budget also, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman highlighted, okay, look, this is minimum government and maximum governance. But in that case, why we need a minimum government? Because this is another neoliberal requirement. Reduce the fiscal deficit. Reduce the expenditure of the state. But what this actually happened? Our salary component in the government expenditure is increasing, not reducing. So which means minimum government, the most expensive government. Is it that we are in the market economy is envisaging? Because within the system, we are creating, or the system is creating a different kind of noble groups with salary. So no government employees are not going to be against the state because there is a lot to lose against it. Whether it's a college teachers or government employee, officer, there is a lot for you to lose. Not only the power, along with the power, money is there. So that's why we are also again ingrained to that. Then I'm sure that majority of the students who are sitting here might be preparing for PSC, UPSC, economic service, exams. You don't want a private sector job. You will look for a private sector job only when you are sure that you can get you don't get a government job. Because the comfort is more with the government, not with the private. Now, I opted out to be away from the government and be in the private sector all through. Because I felt that it's a challenge. Because every time when my salary is, I get a increment or non-increment based on certain tasks, my performance. When I was leaving my job in 2015 end, and I was bound to have a 360 degree of review. It's a long, process. Anyone can actually harm. Even after that, the maximum, review you get in the normal scenario is maximum 6 to 8%. But there you compare that the private government sector. So these things, this is the way our system right now created a different, differentiated us and also divided us. Tomorrow there is something happens. No, now according to the DA variance, the government employees are getting good salary, even pensioners are getting. But tomorrow something happens to our finance, like what happened in Greece. 100% sure that no one is going to show any empathy or sympathy to the government employees. But we are divided. So within this divided, dismantle the system, how we will think about an alternative. And the third point I just want to highlight is the information asymmetry, which I already told. Because we don't have any kind of idea what is happening. It's not only that as an individual we are doing it, and at the same time, even the market also doesn't, not ready to explain us anything what they are doing. The classic example is Adar Poonawala statement and the Serum Institute costing of Covishield, even Covaxin also. We placed, like we from people put a pill in the government, or Supreme Court. They rejected, saying that already there is pill, so that we don't want it. But the thing is, the questions that we raised, we would like to know that what is the kind of costing of these companies. And the same kind of case is in the EU court, asking about Covaxins, the AstraZeneca's costing factor, because public fund is gone to this kind of research. And no one is ready to talk about the public funding. But the entire, the COVID, whatever kind of shots we are receiving, the funding, a major chunk is a public funding. Some or other government has been funded in. This is started not now. This is started from 2002-3 onwards. It's an other WHO major project which 80 countries were part into this. How many of us knew that? Whether in this information asymmetry, what was our media doing? Did they ever communicate it to us these things? Because all this information were on the public domain. It is not something like someone closed and kept it somewhere. So various ways we are living in a completely uninformed world. And then we are making comments about every other thing. It's completely like, blinds are, touching the elephant story. We don't know. But we are very strong about it. We are very authoritarian about making our comments also. This is the kind of situation we do have. So in this context, my another question is, now everyone can see that there is a sustainable development being, promoted as an alternative development mantra or like kind of it. But how far that is possible? Here, what Professor Kabir mentioned is one thing which I feel very important to talk about it. Like Kudumbashree. Kudumbashree is not only just replacing the government or taking the government from its responsibility and putting it on some few women. It's also something like, that the market needs it. Because due to the neoliberalism, like what happened in the Indian economy is that the informalization proliferated like anything. We have, like our 97% of the work is being, taking place in the informal economy, 96%. It is actually the quite old data because this is a National Commission on Unorganized Sector report is talking about it. From the, if I am talking, it maybe it's 97 or 98% might be in the informal sector or unorganized sector. So when informal sector is another story. In 2010, when I was doing a survey with the garment workers in Delhi and Gujarat, Surat and all. So their income was like 10 pieces of clothes when they are doing. The income that they were receiving in 2010 was almost the same as they were receiving in 95, 96. I'm 100% sure that the remuneration might be maybe almost same. So what ultimately happening that they have to work more and more to earn the similar kind of income. Same time, what is happening that our living expenses are going up. So instead of going to a better of situation, majority are falling into the worse of kind of situation. And now because of the demonetization and then the COVID, scenario is really worse. It's one informal study says that something around 60 to 70% of Indians are under poverty. In that sense, many of us sitting here is highly privileged people. then imagine the kind of privilege what we are having when you compare about the other segment. So what I'm trying to say that in this informalization is taking place, then who is actually getting most of the struggle? The men income is coming down, and then men either they are unemployed or not unemployed or less getting it. Then you are bringing the women also into the front. Already they have the work, the other things of the family, and then you are adding, you are making them, they empowered them and making the entrepreneur. Is good. But the problem is that not everyone can be an entrepreneur. I tried to be an entrepreneur some point of time. I realized it's not my cup of tea. I can't. I can do a strategy. I can help someone to be a good entrepreneur. But I myself can't be an entrepreneur. So entrepreneurship is something, a skill, which only a few people have. Majority are like tasks. Okay, you give a task and they will deliver the task. That means employer nature. So in this scenario, the Kudumbashri, which is actually, like all the self-help groups or the microfinance programs, that is actually propagated. Even the Flow and Banerjee, they all did the same thing. They were like talking a lot about how microfinance was a rosiest kind of thing. And entire thing is on the women empowerment, and then working on the poor, you do this, you do that, then they will be doing a great thing. Yes, everyone has to do it, but it is actually bringing some kind of cushioning the issue. Otherwise, the crisis or the criticism against neoliberalism would have been like much severe. Maybe we would have been already challenged it, but that didn't happen that period because women also took the major share of the burden, and then they came as like entrepreneurs. It's great. So this is another way we actually twist things. This is what market has done it. So in the entire microfinance has a thing, and then microfinance, in fact, because I worked in a microfinance sector, I was a policy researcher in one of the microfinance apex body in the country. Maybe it was the first, and maybe that time it was the only one in the South Asia level. So I had seen that how this sector is coming up. Many of the people who is actually landed up there, and then how they grew over the period. Because it is now, I mean, by fourth year of my engagement, like my research, I realized that this is nothing just institutionalized money lending. Maybe our local money lender could have been better person. That the way things to change. But all this way, when academia and media and everyone actually like some small things, what this is happening in the society is being projected something great. On this process, what we, the neoliberal proponents or like promoters, they achieved is that the criticism against them has come down. Now look at the Sri Lanka. What is happening in Sri Lanka, everyone is debating that that's because of China. Is it that? Even 2005-06 onwards, there are a lot of writings on Sri Lanka's, the neoliberalism, the adverse impact. And they were talking about it. But now suddenly you got a culprit, scapegoat, to put it everything. And then the issue of the neoliberalism never ever discussed. So what I'm trying to say that in this scenario, when we talk about the alternative development approach, people has to come up. And another thing also, maybe there are a lot of researches are there. You can see that in another 5 times, a lot of research is going to happen on cooperatives. Things are changing. And ILO came out with another new term, social and solidarity economy, SSC. It's the latest ministerial debates were discussing about it. So what it is, I was keen because I was also happened to be part of one of the ministerial thing as an like participant. So I was trying to understand it. Then it's nothing like that. It's an informal sector. You put it in new. It's an old wine, but in a new bottle. You're placing it. So, but here the cooperatives are coming. But why cooperative? So the new cooperative ministry in central government is not just happen like that. It has some other policy things also. The international influence is there. And in that case, that was a thing, then we could have been, India has a lot of successful cooperative model. Amul. Amul is still struggling to be, retain its identity. Anytime this can be taken over by various people. Even though we have a lot of, I do have a lot of issues with Indira Gandhi's authoritarian structure, but I respect her, I adore her for this Amul's decision. Because of her strong position that made Amul to continue, stand in its feet. And similarly, we do have a lot of other interesting cooperative models in this country. The MAX, Mutually Aided Cooperative Act, which actually tried to destroy that. But people's struggle, fight, that actually brought it to continue in its form. But in this scenario, whether they will be able to do the same kind of fight as they had done in mid-2000s, and by 2008, those things were silenced because everyone left cooperative by the time. But now you can see that a lot of producer cooperatives are coming up. I look into this as a positive change because we can't anyway fight with Ambani, Adani, or Mark Zuckerberg or anyone else. But we need to survive. This cooperative model, what is coming up right now, it seems to me, like the kind of survival that we are trying to do it. And now the Kerala government is also venturing in a differently. I don't know what's this future, but the thing is that people who is working in the advertising sector is also forming a cooperative. Or maybe some scholars, you can actually come together and make a cooperative, and instead of having a society, organization, you can actually talk about it. So that's where things are changing. But the change is what is happening right now is not sufficient to bring a larger change which we aspire for. None of us would like to go back to the situation which our parents or our families were in 30 years or 40 years back. So it's a kind of effort that people are doing it largely. Then some way, other way, the policymakers are trying to, comprehend or diffuse the kind of criticism that can come out with this kind of, it's not a free market, it is a completely a corporatized kind of market. In a free market, still we can think about it. But when few people is only operating in the market, they decides and determines everything, then we can't think about, we can't call it as a market. You people know much better than me. It's like in India, Ambani and Adani is deciding everything. Even Farmers' Law, the Three Farmers Act, that is, we know that for whom that has been done. Why the wheat export has been stopped, we all knew that why it has been happened. Who is actually buying the entire pulses from Europe, we all knew that who is doing it. These are nothing like a secret. It's all in the public domain. But what the government has done? Nothing. We can't expect much from the governments also. But the reason is that many corporates, their net value is, worth is much and many times higher than the many governments' GDP. Or not GDP, like a government's maybe annual expenditure or something. So how we will tackle that situation? And another thing, which the Reliance Group has mentioned some time back, the data is oil. Are we ready to even tap that government? Anyone is actually asking, any academician or any scholar, any technician is asking governments to tap that oil? We are not. Because that is something we have to think about. In Europe, there is a fight is going on. In Australia, you know the fight between the Australian government and Google. India, still it's fighting, nothing is happening. And the case which is actually done, the pill, in the pill actually someone who was representing with the pill petitioner is now changed to the company's representative. So you can imagine that. So in this scenario, gaining maximum knowledge and looking at what is happening and criticizing and trying to understand it, that the information you have and your sensibilities and your intelligence, and helps to maintain something like a true to what you believe and what is true in the historically, is that you have to follow, and also you have to try to work with the community around you. That's the only thing we can do, that maybe eventually things will change. And another thing is things, since we are in a technological era, technology grows and changes very fast. So I hope things also will evolve accordingly, and the alternative development agenda or idea will also evolve along with that, because it's a must. It's actually a matter of our survival, nothing else. Thank you for the department and for everyone